Spider-Man and Todd McFarlane continue to dominate the comic space. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm your host, Lawrence, over at Mighty Comics Collectibles, and today, of course, is our breakdown. Now, what I do in this video, I take the 10 hottest books according to the Key Collector app, and I break them down for everyone out there, letting you know which books I'm buying at which prices, of course, and which I'm staying away from. But before we get started in the video, I remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do yourself a favor, hit that sub button, smash the like button for this guy right here. I do appreciate it, as always. And with that out of the way, let's get into this week's breakdown. Starting us off this week at number 10 is Avengers number 9, the first appearance and death of Wonder Man, who was later then resurrected. 4 sales beat the average this week with a high in a CGC 7.0, selling for $500 and up 2% over the average. Next up, we had a CGC 5.5 sale for $334, up a crazy 37% over the average. And lastly, a CGC 3.5 selling for only $195, but up 20% over the average. With the trailer debuting at New York Comic Con, Wonder Man makes the list for the first time in 2025. I gotta tell you, I'm really looking forward to seeing this show on Disney+. But that said, I don't want to spend this kind of money on this book. I have a feeling the series is going to be pretty good, pretty comical. Regardless, I still don't want to drop this coin. Heading to the modern age at number 9 this week is Star Wars Clone Wars number 1, the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano. 4 sales beat the average this week with a high in a CGC 9.8 newsstand, selling for $3,600 and up 27% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.6 sale for only $520, up 7% over the average. Over the course of 5 years, graded copies of this book went from 100 all the way to 1,900 copies. That is insane. Ahsoka Season 2 is nearing end of production with an expected premiere in late 2026. To me, guys, you know I'm not a big Star Wars fan, and if I am not a big modern Star Wars fan. So with that said, you know I'm staying away from this one, but if you are, you gotta tell me you shelling out $3,000 for a 9.8 newsie? I want to hear it. Back on the list at number 8 this week for the second week in a row is Spawn number 1, the first appearance of Spawn. 13 copies broke the average this week with 5 and a 9.8. The high selling for only $160, up 24% over that average. Spawn makes the list for the second consecutive week in 2025. I said it last week. Do I want to own this book? I think if you're a Spawn fan, you have to own it. Do you want to own a 9.8? I gotta say, it's cheap enough, $160, but there are a ton of them out there. With that said, if you're a fan, I'm a buyer. If not, I'm staying away. Finally, our first Bronze Age book on the list this week, it is Giant Size X-Men number 1, the first appearance of the new X-Men team. 4 sales broke the average this week with a high in a CGC 9.0, selling for a cool $4,050 and up 5% over the average. Next up, we had a CGC 8.0 sale for $4,000, up 35% over the average. And finally, a CGC 5.5 selling for $1,600 and up 1% over that average. Giant Size X-Men 1 ranks for the 15th time in 2025. I said it long term, I want to own this book. There's no question. It's probably at that top spot for all Bronze Age keys. But you could see really nice copies of this book maybe are selling for a premium. So with that said, I always say it every time we talk about this book, it's got to be a high quality key, great colors, great presentation. That's the only copies I want to own. Back to the Copper Age at number 6 this week is Amazing Spider-Man number 316 and the third appearance of Venom. This is also the first full cover appearance of Venom. And lastly, an iconic cover by the great Todd McFarlane. 12 sales beat the average this week and 6 in a 9.8. The high this week selling for $475 and up 18% over the average. We also had a CGC 6.0 Mark Jewelers sell for $135, but up 31% over that average. Venom's first cover appearance qualifies for the list for only the 3rd time in 2025. I say it every time I talk about this book. If you're a Todd McFarlane fan, you want to own it. If you're a Venom fan, it is a must own, and especially if you're a Spider-Man fan, you gotta own this book. With that said, I think $500 is too much to spend. I've seen them for around $350, so do your due diligence, but long term, it's a book I want to own. Rounding out the 5 spot this week is the King of Comics. It is Amazing Spider-Man number 129, and this first appearance of Frank Castle and the Punisher. This is also the first appearance of the Jackal. Only 5 sales beat the average this week, with a high in a CGC 8.0, selling for $1,875 and up 2% over the average. Next up, we had a CGC 7.5 sale, selling for $1,597, up 8% over the average. And lastly, a CGC 6.0 selling for $1,250, up 16% over the average. This week marks the 33rd time out of 41 weeks that Frank Castle has appeared on the Hot 10 Breakdown. I tell you guys, man, this book is absolutely on fire. I haven't seen anything like it before covering this list. But I gotta tell you, if you've noticed or not, a lot of these books maybe have 4 sales, 5 sales, stuff like that. They're too hot to handle, and they're starting to slow down. In fact, the entire market right now is really heading lower. I'm not saying price-wise, but a lot less books are being sold. So with that said, if you're a long-term holder, I want to own the book. If not, I'd be staying away. Coming in at number 4 on the breakdown is another Todd McFarlane key. It is Incredible Hulk number 340, and this classic cover by the Todd father. 13 copies broke the average this week, with a high in a CGC 9.8, selling for $1,035 and up 2% over the average. We also had 5 sales in a 9.6, with the high selling for $550, up a crazy 41% over that average. In total, this classic issue has appeared on the list 10 times over the past 41 weeks. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. If you're a classic cover lover, you're a Todd McFarlane lover, it's a must-own book. This book has always been crazy expensive, especially in a 9.8, even in a 9.6. Get yourself a nice raw copy and call it a day. Now let's hit into the top 3, and guess what? They all have something in common. Let's start with number 3. It is Amazing Spider-Man number 50, the trifecta, the first appearance of the Kingpin, this iconic cover by John Romita Sr., and this classic storyline, Spider-Man No More. 6 sales beat the average this week, with a high in a CGC 7.5, selling for $2,060 and up 17% over the average. Next up, a CGC 7.0 sale for $1,420, up 1% over the average. And lastly, a CGC 5.5 selling for only $850, up 3% over the average. After a dominant presence on the hot list in the early part of 2025, ASM 50 earns a spot for the 9th time this year. With that said, you guys know I love this book, one of my favorites in my collection, and out there all the time when I go to shows, conventions, wherever you are, I always look for this book. With that said, if you're not a Spider-Man fan and you're not a classic cover fan, I don't see why you want to own it, but for me, you know, it's a must-have. Speaking of Spider-Man, at number 2 this week is Amazing Spider-Man number 4, some more Silver Age goodness, the first appearance of the Sandman. This is also the first appearance of Betty Brant. 6 copies broke the average this week, with a high in a CGC 6.0, selling for $2,247, up 13% over the average. Next up, we had a CGC 5.0 sale for $1,706, up another 3% over the average. And lastly, a CGC 4.0 selling for $1,688 and up 25% over that average. This is the second week in 2025 that Sandman's first appearance ranked on the Hot 10 Breakdown. You guys know me, Silver Age Spider-Man is where I want to be in the comic book market. I'm a big Spidey fan, and the Silver Age major villains is where I want to play. So yes, if you're a long-term holder, no question, I gotta own this book. And finally, at the top spot this week, guess what? Another Spider-Man key. It is Amazing Spider-Man number 300 and the first full appearance of Venom. This is also an iconic cover by Todd McFarlane. Only 10 sales beat the average this week, with a high in a CGC 9.8, selling for $2,595 and up 3% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.6 sale for $895, up 8% over the average. Milestone issue 300 captures the top spot for the second time in 2025 and its 24th time overall. That is remarkable. Just remember, when I talk about this book, a lot of copies out there. I don't suggest always going out and getting 9.8, but with that said, if that book gets to $2,000, I probably would be a buyer at that point, as long as the colors are good and everything looks as it should. Now, with that said, I'd rather just own a 9.2 and take that cash and put it towards a better book. Probably a Silver Age key, but that is just me. Hope you guys enjoyed the list. I really appreciate you guys for hanging with me every week. You know what time it is now. It is time for the best buy of the week. And me, Silver Age Spider-Man, I got to do it. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 4, the first appearance of the Sandman. One of my absolute favorites from the early portion of that run. To me, it's always a buy. One more thing I want to make sure you guys know is over on my Instagram page, MightyComics_collectibles, I've gone ahead and started a new service I'm calling the Collector's Exchange, and I will talk about it more in the future. But if you are on Instagram, make sure you go subbed up to MightyComics_collectibles and check out some great books. Hope you guys enjoy the video. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics Collectibles saying thank you for watching, happy collecting, and I'll talk to you guys soon.